Percents. Percent literally means for each 100. Per means for each. Cent means 100. As we work with percents, you should keep this in mind. It's the simplest, clearest explanation of what percent means. The symbol for percent is this symbol here. So 24% literally means 24 for each 100, or 24 over 100. One way of looking at percents is using a 10 by 10 grid model. This allows us to visually compare different quantities to the 100 squares within the grid. Here we have 45 of the 100 squares shaded. How could we write the shaded area as a fraction of the whole? Because percent means for each 100, the shaded area represents 45% of the whole. This is 45 out of 100 squares shaded. And here we have 45 over 100, and we can also say 45%. There are 100 total squares. What percent are shaded? All right, so we have 10 rows and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns shaded. And so since there's 10 here and 7 here, there are 70 shaded squares out of 100 total squares. So therefore, the answer is 70%. 70% of the grid is shaded. Another way of looking at percents is using a tape diagram. This allows us to visually compare different parts of a ratio and the different parts of a percent. Since there's 3 out of 5 of the squares shaded, how could we compare this to 100? Well, let's say that the end here was 100, and we could divide it into 5 equal boxes. Well, 100 divided by 5 is 20. So each box would represent 20 out of 100. See that? So we can divide 100% into 5 equal boxes, making each box 20%. And then we can say that 20, 40, 60% of this whole is shaded. Once again, if you have the tape in 5 equal parts, each part would be 20%. And therefore, these 3 shaded boxes represent 60% of the whole. Tape diagrams can help us solve word problems. A survey was taken that asked a total of 1,000 participants whether or not they were happy with their job. An overall score was given. 30% of the participants were unhappy, while the rest of the participants were happy with their job. How many of the participants were unhappy? First, we need to draw the tape diagram and decide what information is important to the problem. All right, so there's 1,000 participants. So over here will be 0, over here will be 1,000. And we want to relate that to 100, the number 100. So 100% of the participants would be 1,000 participants, right? Because that's the total number. Now you can see that there's 10 equal pieces on this piece of tape. So 100 divided by 10 is 10. So that means each of these marks will be 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on. Then we take that 1,000 and we divide it by 10 as well. So each of the marks will represent 100 people. So here, the first mark is 10% of the people, which will equal 100 people. So you can see that on the top, we have a scale that goes up to 1,000, down here up to 100. We can now use the tape to find what number of participants matches up with the given percent. So they tell us that 30% of the participants were unhappy. So we shade in 30%. So from here to here. And we can see that that represents 300 people. Another way of looking at percents is by using a double number line. This allows us to visually compare specific numbers with specific percents. There are 20 total tick marks on each number line. The dot is on the 7th tick mark on the bottom line. How might we label the top line to determine what percent that is? Well, since the blue circle is at 7 out of 20, how could we compare this to 100? Since 20 tick marks on the bottom line must equal 100% on the top line, each tick mark on the bottom line must be equal to 5% on the top line. So see, 20 is equal to 100%, therefore half of that, 10, would be 50%. Half of that, 5, would be 25%. So you can just go ahead and fill in the rest of these, right? So each of these is 5. So that's going to be 5, 10, that's 0, 15, 20, and so on. Each tick mark is 5%. That means that 7 tick marks on the bottom is equal to 35% on the top line. There are 20 total tick marks on each number line. At what percent is the blue circle located? All right, so if this is 20, then that's 19, 18, 17. All right, so since this is 17 out of 20, we want to know, what is that out of 100? So we go up here, we have 100%. We've already figured out that there's 20 evenly spaced sections. 100 divided by 20 is 5. So each one of these marks 5%. So if we go all the way up here, this is 100%, therefore this is 95, this is 90, this is 85%. 17 out of 20 is equivalent to 85 out of 100, 85%.